and the Bobecks are interbreeding. I don't know what the children will look like, but I'm sure one day they'll menace Tokyo.
Hey, Georgie, how much allowance are you getting these days?
A sweet 50 bills a week plus stock options.
Wow, that's a lot! Are your parents doctors, lawyers, or Jews?
You could buy a whole monkey with that.
I mean, let me tell you something. I don't know what they call that stuff, but that little, caramel, man, you gotta stop playing. I mean, if they give me one right now, tear it up live.
And a 1, and a 2, and a 3.
Welcome to Podcast. Thank you for joining us. This is your host, Lily Abernathy. Episode 8. Dr. Phil Rio Tardo. My first experience with Adam Ray was some years ago during a random lineup at the Comedy Store. I believe this was also the first night that I met Bobby Lee. He touched my face and asked about my jacket. The same jacket that Adam Sandler wears in the film Hubie Halloween. Yes, I am also a style icon. Brief side story. I had to go to the hospital the next day and get a steroid cream due to Bobby's hands being so dirty. Adam hails from the Pacific Northwest, or more specifically Seattle, where overrated artist Kurt Cobain died. After finishing high school, Adam would make his way to California to attend the University of Southern California. He earned a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree and around the mid-2000s ventured into Hollywood. Adam would become a jack of all trades but master of none. From acting, to voiceovers, to stand-up, to impersonations, to sketches. For roughly 20 years, he's been dabbling in it all. Adam's first IMDb credit is listed as Tom Cruise on the short-lived sketch comedy show known as Human Giant, with leads Paul Scheer, Rob Hubel, and former comedian, actor, and now solo lead guitarist Aziz Ansari. Adam would appear in a number of small TV roles, often being typecast as some type of blue-collar or authority figure, like a police officer, bodyguard, fireman, average buff dumb guy, things along those lines. While simultaneously doing acting gigs, Adam was also doing commercials and stand-up comedy. Some of Adam's earliest recorded work is from the era where Persian businessman and fellow comedian Jamie Masada, owner of the Laugh Factory in Hollywood, would tape everyone's sets and then put them on YouTube, so he could benefit off of other comedians' hard work.
Think of a famous comedian, any famous comedian, and it's a sure bet that they either started or still perform at the world-famous Laugh Factory.
Now, of course, the first Laugh Factory on Hollywood's Sunset Strip opened 36 years ago, and it is still going strong. And now Chicago has its own outpost of the Laugh Factory, and we are delighted to have the club's founder, Jamie Masada, here to talk about the club and get his reaction to the whole Jimmy Fallon, Jay Leno thing at The Tonight Show. Good morning.
Good morning. And first one, it's not 36, it's 34. I'm glad.
34.
Oh.
34. You make me 2 years.
2 years too old.
Ah, the good old days of Hollywood, when Chris D'Elia was just making jokes about Drake and not trying to hook up with underaged women. Fun fact, Chris has a joke about me in one of his recorded specials. It turns out he was not really a fan of me constantly talking about how someone whose first tattoo is a hand tattoo and who also doesn't drink alcohol or do drugs is probably up to some
good googly moogly
private. But what do I know? Sidebar, the first listener who can figure out which joke it is, I will put you first on the list for free merch whenever we get around to it. But enough about thieves and sexual deviants. Let's get back to our main subject, Adam. Around 2013, Mr. Ray would be once again typecast in a role, but this time a movie with very famous actress Sandra Bullock. I guess Adam impressed her so much with his, charm, let's say, that they became friends and still to this day communicate. At some point in the future, Adam would start a podcast. The podcast, titled About Last Night, was co-hosted by fellow comedian Brad Williams. You may know of Brad from the infamous Comedy Central show Mind of Mencia. Brad was the little person from the show and also an opener for Carlos on tours. Now, I have never personally watched this podcast and am only familiar with it because I am loosely connected to the industry. But at some point, I want to say around 2020, Brad had gotten into a bit of a controversy due to a story that had been told in the past. Now, we can neither confirm nor deny if the story is true, but it basically goes like this. While touring with Carlos, at some point, a woman wanted to hook up with Mencia. She was inebriated, and Brad switched places with him during intercourse or something along those lines. While never openly admitted this would lead to Brad leaving the podcast, Adam would continue the podcast himself, where it would continue to do some of the worst numbers we have seen in podcasting. Both for a podcast that has been around as long as it has, and for someone who has been doing comedy for as long as Adam. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, Adam is a bit of a jack of all trades, but master of none. Roughly 20 years into comedy, he has been able to make a living at it, but has no real accomplishments to show. He is more often than not typecast, and has never been the lead of any famous TV program or film. If I had to guess, most of his money has come from the brief appearances in TV shows and films, and even more so, voice-over work. In advertisements for McDonald's, Hyundai, Brooks Brothers, the San Diego Zoo Zebra Exhibit, and Burger King. I don't have any ill will towards Mr. Ray, to each their own as far as comedy tastes go, but there is one thing I absolutely can't stand. It may not even be Adam's fault, as much as it is both his fans and the other comedians that allow it. But what in the absolute is going on with this Dr. Phil impersonation? I mean, seriously, what the is going on with it? It is one of the absolute worst things I have ever seen. He is seemingly appearing everywhere as this character. From guest hosting on Kill Tony to actually doing a performance of it at the Netflix Is a Joke festival, which isn't really a festival, but just a bunch of separate shows that they all schedule around the same time and charge incredibly dumb amounts of money for you to see one thing. Genuinely, Skankfest is the best comedy festival that exists. No cap. Dead arse. Speaking of Kill Tony, imagine doing comedy for almost 20 years, and when you go to perform your minute, you have it all written on paper.
What else we got? Hans looks like he has genital fried lice. Sounded funnier on the drive over. Moving on.
Absolutely nothing about this Dr. Phil impersonation is good. The makeup is mediocre. The only part of it that can be considered the same is that with the makeup on, they both have the same style baldness. Adam's face does not look like Phil's and have different structures. As far as the voice goes, He kind of gets there in tone, but cannot get the cadence down. He often speaks far too fast and acts too much like himself to really pull off any good impersonation of Dr. Phil. The whole point of an impersonation is that it's somewhat believable or that the essence is there, which I feel none of in this situation. In fact, I'm not convinced Adam is good at any impersonations at all, actually. In 2016, the sketch comedy show Mad TV was revived. I absolutely loved the original run of this show during my younger years and can say that the 2016 reboot should be scrubbed from the internet. It was absolutely horrible, and Adam was a featured cast member. His most notable impersonations on the show being the rapper Pitbull.
Because she likes to spill stuff and, I don't.
Alec Baldwin.
Welcome to the match game. Hello, stars. And Scott Baio. Baby Joker, Dumb Door, the Democrat, was so dumb. She said the only thing we have to fear is...
The only thing we have to fear is the East Side Flacos.
The only thing we have to fear is the East Side Flacos.
Tony Danza.
And as the king, it's the incomparable Tony Danza.
Are you kidding me? You're gonna marry a girl based on her shoe size? That's crazy tomatoes. Am I right?
Blake Shelton.
I'm Blake Shelton.
Oh, I'm gonna get a little closer for this country road.
I like that.
You are the love of my life. You are the love of my life. You are the love of my...
And Wolf Blitzer.
CNN, I'm Wolf Blitzer. Joining me tonight are Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump and his wife Melania, and Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton and her husband Bill. Apparently no one wants to debate anymore, so to get them all here, we're doing a game show instead. I hate my life.
This Dr. Phil impersonation really seems like a situation where a comedian who has been doing comedy longer than they should has found something to cling on to. And they are going to do it to the point that will absolutely run the well dry, even though it's not even mediocre at best. Despite the clips chosen for Adam's impressions, we wanted to state that we love Will Sasso. Today's episode is brought to you by me. I would still like to get both Robbie and myself to this year's Skankfest. With the upcoming arrival of the Billionaire Podcast Network, I believe it to be a good opportunity to showcase some of what we have to offer. If anyone who is listening could help us reach out to Luis J. Gomez so that we could strike a deal, we would be very grateful. I am currently offering to film and produce a promo video showcasing the event that will be at least 15 minutes long in both English and Spanish. We would also include clips from Robbie interacting with people on Fremont Street for roughly 20 to 30 minutes a day. Hashtag Robbie on the street. Hashtag SkankFestRob. We also wanted to let the listeners know that we will be expanding subjects to deal with all forms of pop culture. While the main focus will still be podcasts about podcasts, I have many other subjects that I would like to explore that I think are interesting. With the upcoming Billionaire Podcast Network, we are also brainstorming many new ideas to try, so please keep an eye out for the BPN coming soon. Please enjoy this week's outro song. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. Follow us at Podcast the Pod on X, formerly Twitter. This has been Lily Abernathy, signing off.
In the depths of space, where the stars align, there's a crew on a mission, one of a kind. They boldly go where no one has gone before. Deep Space Nine, baby, it's the one I adore. In the heart of Beijing, they're holding it down. Commander Cisco turning frowns upside down. With Kira and Odo, the rest of the crew, Worf and O'Brien too. They bring the funk and the beat, all for me and you. Bugs Bar is where the party's at. The holographic band with thick fontaine. We're dancing through the one hole on a cosmic ride. With Dax and Basher by our side. In the depths of space, where the stars align, there's a crew on a mission, one of a kind. They boldly go where no one has gone before. Deep Space Nine, baby, it's the one I adore. In the heart of Beijing, they're holding it down. Commander Cisco turning frowns upside down. With Kira and Odo and the rest of the crew, Worf and O'Brien too. They bring the funk and the beat, all for me and you. Bugs Bar is where the party's at. The holographic band with thick fontaine. We're dancing through the one hole on a cosmic ride. With Dax and Basher by our side. Deep Space Nine, baby, it's the one I adore.
Lily Abernathy. Lily Abernathy. Lily Oh, she's here. I see her.